Hey guys, it's Dylan. So to understand if Bitcoin is really centralized, we need to start here. Remember, the Bitcoin blockchain is just a public ledger of transactions. Each block is 1 megabyte in size in terms of data, and currently the block reward for miners mining a block is 6.25 Bitcoin. For context, on average, transaction fees amount to about 0.25 Bitcoin, so most of the rewards for the miners currently comes from new Bitcoin issuance. These right here are supposed to be picks, so these are the mining pools that are located globally. Right now, a high percentage of which, somewhere around 65%, is in China. We'll get there in a minute, and these ends are nodes. So all Bitcoin miners are nodes, but not all nodes are miners. When you hear the term node, just think of a computer that records and stores all of the transactions in the blockchain history. They communicate with each other to basically verify all of the transactions. And as you can see, it takes about 10 minutes on average for a new block to be created. Now, there's a system built into the Bitcoin protocol that says the difficulty adjustment of mining a block changes to hit that 10-minute target. So people always ask the question, what happens to Bitcoin if miners stop mining? First of all, it's very improbable because there's zero financial incentive for the miners to make that decision. More importantly, what will happen is the difficulty adjustment changes. So if the miners all stop, it becomes much easier to mine new blocks, so more miners are incentivized to come online until that 10-minute threshold for a new block is met. So yes, in the short term, there would be delays in the network and transactions wouldn't be processed, but as new miners are incentivized to come online because the difficulty to mine blocks reduces, eventually once that new 10-minute mark is met, things would then stabilize again. And there is one group of people not shown in this picture, and that would be D for developers. So basically there is a triumvirate of control over the Bitcoin network. You have the miners, you have the nodes, and you have the developers. This community, or this three-headed monster, basically interacts with each other in the most decentralized global fashion that they can to exert control over updates and verification and basically the operation of the network at scale. So do miners have control? No. Do the nodes have control? No. Do the developers have control? No. They all work together. And so that's why there's no one person that really has control of Bitcoin, but we definitely need to talk about the situation in China. So hands down, the best study I've ever seen on the topic, if you're serious about learning more, is linked below, The Looming Threat of China, done by Princeton and FIU. But before we get into it, just know that when people refer to the geographies of the Bitcoin hashing power and where it's located, the hashing power is really just the computing power. They refer to this University of Cambridge Bitcoin mining map. Once again, link below if you want to check it out. Currently, as you can see, it says about 65% of the average monthly share of total hash rate is in China. Now, another important point to remember, I as a US citizen could contribute hashing power to a Chinese mining pool. So basically they could employ me to be a partial miner of their operation. So just remember that. And also the percentage hash rate was upwards of 80% in China, which has come down about 15% from those highs. So we'll see where this goes in the future, but it's absolutely something everybody needs to be aware of. But here's why you have to read the fine print. The map is based on geolocation data of hashers connecting to the Bitcoin mining pools, those three pools who have kindly agreed to share aggregate level data for research. These pools collectively represent about 37% of Bitcoin total hash rate over the examined period. So this is not all of the hash rate. This is literally only 37%. The fact of the matter is we don't have accurate, up-to-date, complete data of where most of the mining is happening, but I want to operate under the assumption that most of it is indeed taking place in China because that is what we need to be concerned with. And to understand why this centralization in China has occurred, two main reasons. It's for the ASIC chips, the application-specific integrated circuits. Most of them are made in China. The biggest company is Bitmain. At one point, about 75% of the chips used were supposedly coming from Bitmain in China. So having direct, close geographic access to those chips is a very important part for mining Bitcoin. And two is the availability of cheap electricity in the Chinese region. So these two factors together are why most of the mining power and computing resources have moved to the Chinese region. So this is what this paper gets into. These capabilities don't grant China direct command of all the hash power in Chinese managed pools, but they do have a variety of tools at their disposal to influence these pools and Bitcoin in general. So at the time of writing, 74% of the hash power on the Bitcoin network is in Chinese managed mining pools. Pool miners can't be directly controlled by China, but the managers are located in China and as such are subject to Chinese authorities. And this right here was so interesting. All you need to know, the GFW is the Great Firewall in China and it's known to limit bandwidth. So Bitcoin mining is a race to be the first to solve the problem. So if you have higher latency or slower times, it's going to be harder to win the incentive. So with that, basically China was actually incentivized to mine empty blocks because most of the fees, remember, come from the new Bitcoin issuance, not from transaction fees. Because they had this great firewall, which increased the latency times, the miners wanted to mine basically partially empty blocks so they could actually win that reward. Now, yes, this problem was solved with BIP 152, which is just a Bitcoin improvement protocol that reduced the bandwidth needed, so it eliminated this problem. But this is a great example of how Bitcoin can adapt and change and morph and improve and become more resistant to attacks over time with cases like this. So just because the problem is arising doesn't mean it's the end of Bitcoin. But there are things that we all should know. One type of attack from China could be censorship. In their arsenal is the ability to perform targeted censorship of Bitcoin users, preventing them from committing transactions to the blockchain. By censoring specific users, China could achieve 3 goals. They could make an ideological statement that even decentralized ecosystems like Bitcoin are still subject to China's central control. Second, they could censor these addresses known to belong to criminals to crack down on illegal activity. Third, they could weaken organizations or foreign economies that rely on Bitcoin by selectively censoring addresses important to those parties. And just so you know, the technical aspects of how they could do that are in this paper. The big thing to remember here though is there is zero financial incentive for China to do something like this, to become a bad actor with that hashing power. Because even if they had a 51% attack, the rest of the network that is still decentralized, these nodes and other miners are going to send a red flag to the network saying, hey, we have some bad activity going on here. So it's going to, in the short term, really hurt the Bitcoin network and the trust. And because of that, the price would plummet. And so any control that China would exert would essentially be hurting themselves because they have millions of dollars invested in these mining operations. But what we need to be aware of is the ideological part, where if China for some reason decided that they just wanted to destroy the Bitcoin network, they could have some very serious short-term impact on the network. And the fact is, nobody knows how it would play out from there. And the second type of attack that could come from China is the de-anonymization. Bitcoin is designed to preserve the pseudonymity of its users, meaning that their real-world identity can't be linked to a Bitcoin address that they use to transact. However, in practice, there are complications that make that de-anonymization attack possible. And so the only goal that China would ever be able to accomplish attacking Bitcoin would be to destabilize or destroy Bitcoin to make an ideological statement or to serve as an attack on institutions that rely on Bitcoin. But would they actually do something like this is 100% up for debate, and it's something we all need to watch moving forward. The thing is though, these Bitcoin mining pools in China are actually incentivized to some degree to spread out their operations, because if you look at Elon's tweet about that one flood that took down about 35% of the hash rate, their entire profits for the month can be wiped out if their operations are down for a day or two, compared to if they spread out those operations geographically, they would actually have less risk of one operation going down and hurting their profits. So 2 main takeaways you need to have. Just because a high percentage of hashing power is in one geographic location, that does not in any way give them outright control of the Bitcoin network. And 2, the Bitcoin protocol is set up in a way where the financial incentive rewards good actors. People attacking Bitcoin or becoming fraudulent actors has a huge financial disincentive where you are literally going to spend millions and now probably billions of dollars to make an ideological statement. Is that something China would want to spend money to do? I don't know. Some of you say yes, some of you say no, but for me, the financial incentives are absolutely strong enough, and the technological abilities of the blockchain in a place like China and globally are more than enough to keep the system working in a positive fashion. Once again, this is why no investment is perfect. Everything has risks. Like, the future of Bitcoin is not just a done deal. I definitely believe in it. I'm absolutely a proponent. I think it's going to overcome a lot of these short-term headwinds. But the truth is, nobody knows what the future holds. So only time will tell. So you can't be putting all of your eggs in one basket. And I have to say it, I was disappointed with how Elon handled the whole situation over the weekend, especially tweets like this that are seemingly rooted in emotion. But more importantly, taking a step back, it's like we have no idea what's going on here. So first first Tesla buys Bitcoin, and then Elon personally buys Bitcoin, and then Tesla accepts it for payments, and then they back off of the payments, and now they might sell it, but then Elon said this morning they're not going to sell it. And of course, we have the whole Doge conversation, but Doge and Bitcoin are different things. It's like the Bitcoin conversation has to do with a store of value and a treasury asset. Now, Doge has to do with transactions, but Elon seems to be conflating the two in his conversations, and it really doesn't make any sense what he's trying to do here. He needs to be more clear, and I think he really needs to slow down, think through these things much more methodical. He has one of the biggest companies on the planet, one of the biggest platforms on the planet, and for him to be so fickle with his back and forth with this whole situation is really exhausting. It's unprofessional, and I really am not a fan. So we'll see where it goes from here, but I think Elon and Tesla need to get this under control. They need to keep their mouth shut until they have a way forward. Just my 2 cents. Now, with that said, yes, Tesla and Elon have the absolute right to do whatever they see best for themselves and for Tesla, but those decisions are a drop in the bucket in the ocean that is the global Bitcoin network. And we all need to remember this. Elon is just one person with one opinion, and he's not a cryptocurrency expert. But please let me know if you have any questions below. I will do my best to clarify. Thank you guys for watching. Please like the video. Big thank you to everybody on the next screen, and I hope you have a great day.